All right, last page. We're going to be doing graphs. Let me zoom in. Opens down. The axis of symmetry is the x value of the vertex. Vertex forms a lot easier. Since it's down, it's a max, and that's -2, 12. The x-intercepts are a little bit more work. The y-intercepts are a little bit more work. Take your calculator, copy it off your calculator, and then do the work later. Domain, all real numbers, -infinity to positive infinity. The range, y is, since it's down, it's less than or equal to the y value of the vertex. And that's -infinity to positive 12 bracket. Intervals are -infinity to positive infinity. It's the x value of the vertex. So it's increasing and then decreasing. And behavior as x approaches -infinity, comma, f of x approaches as x approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches. Since they're both going down, -infinity, -infinity. All right, let's see. I'm probably going to have to fake this graph a little bit, so we'll worry about that later. To get the y-intercept, I plug in 0 to my y, so that feels easier, so I'll do that first. -3 times 0 plus 2. 0 plus 2 is 2, squared is 4, times -3 plus 12. -12 plus 12 is 0. Oh, so did I do that right? Okay. Well, I'll know if I did it right because I can graph it. So I'll worry about that later. Hopefully I did it right. It looks right to me. So now I'm going to do the x-intercepts. So then if I'm doing the x-intercepts, I set this equal to 0. So I go 0 equals -3 x plus 2 squared plus 12. So let me show that that's my y-intercept. Subtract 12 to both sides. Divide by -3. Square root, plus or minus 2 equals x plus 2, minus 2 minus 2, so -2 plus or minus 2. -2 minus 2 is -4, -4 comma 0. And then -2 plus 2 is 0. Well, now it makes sense. If the y-intercept is 0, 0, then the x-intercept is 0, 0. Okay, so there's my work for that. Now I'm going to graph it. 1, 2, 3, 4, -4, 0. I know that my vertex halfway in the middle at -2. I'm going to fake it and say that's 12. It's going down and down. Axis of symmetry forever. Okay? Put this in vertex form, identify the vertex. So the first thing I should do is get my A, my B, and my C. The formula is -b over 2a, which is the first part of my quadratic formula. So -b over 2 times a is 8 over 4. Boom, the x value of my vertex is 2. Now I'm going to go 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 6. 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 minus 16 is -8 plus 6 is -2. What if you don't believe me? Pick up your calculator. Graph this in your calculator. If that's the vertex, then you're good. So the vertex is done. And now the function. If this is f of x, I'm not making it a whole new function. I'm just changing it. Okay? So f of x equals, do the opposite. But then I have to remember that I can't forget about that 2 because I, in a sense, divided it out. Okay? And just to show you, because I know there's a lot of 2's. How do you know I'm right? If I graph this and I graph this, they should be right on top of each other. All right. It looks like they're asking you to find the error. I don't even think this one's on there, but I can find it. What did they do wrong? Oh, okay. It's not on the test, so who cares? All right, so let's go to this one. Solve this in 2 different ways. So I can solve it. I can't solve it by factoring. Okay. I can solve it by the quadratic formula. That's one way. I can solve it by completing the square. That's another way. And I don't really have a choice. I can't do the square root. So I'm going to go -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. I take care of this part first. The square root of 36. A negative times a negative is a positive. Then multiply all of that. 4 times 1 times 3, 12. Square root of 48. Then I'm going to have to tree 48. I'm glad I have space. 2, 24, 2, 12, 2, 6, 2, 3. So this is the same thing as 4 root 3. And then negative of negative 6 is 6 plus or minus over 2. And I can divide them all by 2. It's all or nothing. X equals negative 3 plus or minus 2 rad 3. Now, I don't even have to check it in my calculator, because if I can solve this by completing the square and get the same answer, then I'm probably right. First thing I do, move it over. Next thing I do is the box, x squared, split it in half. X minus 3, 9. So that 9 is going to get added here and there. So plus 9, that's 12. Sorry, my handwriting is not awesome. Then I take this, x minus 3. Now square root, x minus 3 equals plus or minus rad 12. But if you look, I can take the 12 and I can tree it. 2, 6, 2, 3, boom. 2 rad 3 equals x minus 3. Add 3 to both sides, and I get 3 plus or minus 2 rad 3. And if you look, ooh, I can see my mistake. For some reason, even though this was a positive and this was a positive, I put a negative. So I better check that. Now, 3 plus or minus 2 rad 3. Okay, that's your test. Study.